I get the privilege of sitting here today with Mr. Brian Blessing. I have known Brian, I'm thinking out loud, but I'm going to say about a dozen or more years, maybe 15 years.
Probably 2005, maybe.
Yeah, there you go. Wow, even 18 years. Yeah, I think that's about right. And as a way into this, there's a lot of reasons, Brian, why I wanted you here for this podcast, but many of them fall around this notion of what I guess is the word for this podcast. And that notion is the idea of non-assuming, the unlikely suspects. One of the things I love most about real estate and real estate investors is that they don't have a look, they don't have a way. They come in all shapes and sizes, backgrounds. There doesn't seem to be a common thread. You know, if you were a Hollywood actor, chances are somewhere in your gene pool there was a Hollywood actor, you know? Mm-hmm. If you're a pilot, it's explainable if your dad was a pilot or whatever. But real estate investors, I haven't been able to pin down a common thread. And because of that, I just love the fact that when you get the greats together, like I would pay money to have a picture of you, Mike Cantu, Jeff Surridge, you know, these kinds of guys that you really can't tell. You know, you don't know that they're worth millions of dollars. I love that about this sport. A highlight in my life, and I guess it's where I want to start, is when we did a day on the street, a one-on-one day on the street, years and years ago. You took me by the mobile home park that you were raised in.
Yep.
And I guess by way of introduction, I now understand that you've recently bought that park.
Yeah, I bought it November last year.
Right, about a year ago. So I want you to take me back there. How were you raised? What does a day in the life of you as a kid look like?
Well, when I was a little kid, I grew up in like a 300-unit apartment complex.
Get closer to this. There you go.
When I was a kid, I grew up in a 300-unit apartment complex. And then I think I was 12 years old. We had moved out to Ravensdale, which is Maple Valley area, into a mobile home. My mom pulled out money out of her retirement to buy this single wide in the trailer park. And then after about a year of being there, my stepdad had beat my mom a few too many times. So eventually she got a restraining order and left him. And I wasn't able to see my real dad till I was 12. And I said, hey, could I see my real dad now that, you know, my stepdad's gone? So, well, my real dad just got out of a treatment center for drug and alcohol. And anyways, so I got to see him a few times, and then my mom and dad got back together. And when I was a little kid, I prayed about that all the time. When I was 5, 8 years old, I used to go to church. And anyways, they got back together, but my dad always told me, hey, you know, I'm probably not going to be with your mom forever, you know. And at 17, I bought a mobile home in the same mobile home park that I lived in. Well, then my dad started partying really bad, and my mom kicked him out. So I had a really tough childhood. And but anyway, 17, I was installing carpet with my dad, and I had a paper out when I was 12. And then we moved to trailer park, and that paper out only paid like $30 a month instead of $100 like I was making with the other one. Well, I had to go to work every weekend with my dad laying carpet when my mom and him got back together. And every day out of school, all summer vacation, I worked laying carpet. So at 17, when I bought that mobile home, Dawn had moved in with me at the time. She was 15 and a half, and I was 16 when we were living at my mom's. And then at 17, I bought that mobile home. And then as soon as I turned 18, I got my contractor's license for installing carpet. And, well, my dad has never filed taxes since like the 80s. So I'm going to be, you know, a good person and pay my taxes. So every check, I save 20% of my check for taxes. Well, I get $10,000 saved, And I'm like, shit, fuck IRS. I want to buy a house. So anyway, because I never lived in a house. So I don't know what happened, but in my mind, I wanted a duplex, okay? I used to watch Carlton Sheets infomercials all the time. And so anyways, I ended up buying a duplex. And at the time, my realtor was an East Indian guy. And my ex-wife, at the time girlfriend, I said, I want to buy a duplex. And she said, I don't want to buy a duplex. And he looks at her and says, lady, in my country, we don't listen to women. So shut up, because he's from Fiji. He's from East Indian or whatever. Anyways, so I bought a duplex when I was 19. I graduated high school 97, and February 98, I bought my house, which I still live there. I bought the house cross street, the house kitty corner. But most of my carpet customers, I'm 45, I'll be 46. 2 years ago, I gave my old helper my van and all my tools and my customers, but most of them are Chinese and Jewish people that have rentals and they're in real estate. And, I'm 19, and I see all these guys give me all these jobs every month. And it's kind of a lot of money, especially when you're a kid. And I say, what are you doing? Explain to me, And one guy gives me advice, another guy gives me advice. Pretty soon I'm like, interesting, Well, I watch Carlton Sheets, and I love watching his infomercials. I ordered his course, and I went through the goal book, and I wrote goals and stuff. Well, then I don't know, I kind of want to have a kid, I guess, and I told Dawn, I said, hey, before we have a kid, I want to buy a fourplex, that way so I got someone to pay for the kid. So we bought the fourplex, then we had a kid, okay? And then I was pretty happy I was excited to go get fixed, But we kind of talked about having 2 kids. So anyways, let's see. Oh, I wanted to buy $1 million building before, hold on.
But the order of things are just, it's killing me. Go ahead.
So I wanted to buy a $1 million building before we had a second kid, okay? And I bought a 14 unit, which was $690,000, and then we had the second kid. And I was pretty stoked. I went to a doctor to get fixed. Some guy in the lobby had a problem with his fixing, so I didn't get fixed, okay? Anyways, fast forward, get divorced, right? Then I accidentally kind of have a Vegas baby. Well, we bought a 19 unit before we had Anna. So if you're going to have kids, make sure someone else is paying for them, okay?
Okay, so this all added up from, I was born in this trailer park, and the lesson is, if you're going to have kids, make sure you have a building to pay for them.
That's
okay,
right.
Let's back up.
Okay.
I'm going to throw it in reverse. I'm going to go back to this childhood.
Okay.
And 300-unit apartment you lived in, and then when you were 12, your mom bought this single wide.
Mm-hmm.
This is, Ravensdale, sort of southeastern Seattle. Let's call it that for those that aren't familiar with that. But directly to the east of that is the Cascade Mountain Range. And there's power line roads.
Oh, yeah.
That go kind of from east all the way across the Cascades, from west all the way over to the east side of the state. Mm-hmm. And I remember you telling me that, as a kid, you'd get on a dirt bike and you'd ride those power line roads like to eastern Washington.
We'd be gone all day long. Yeah.
Right. And I think back on, a much more attended childhood. You didn't have a lot of attending to you. Mm-mm. What was going through your brain at that age? In terms of dream space, was it dreaming of your own home? What was happening in those early years that kept you thinking forward?
Well, I don't know. So when I was a kid, my mom always would say, I can't afford it. So I had to figure out how to afford it. I used to climb in garbage cans and the dumpsters and get the pop cans at the big apartment complex, recycle pop cans. I'd go swap meet with my uncle. And then I washed cars. I took out old people's garbage. At 12, I got the newspaper out. Out in Ravensdale out there, I mowed yards. I got the $30 a month newspaper out because it was only once a week. And, I did what I could to make money, you know what I mean, to get what I wanted.
Because you were told, so a message was, a hardwired message. We can't afford it.
Yeah. So I had to figure out how to afford it. I don't know how old I was. It was before I was 12. There was a motorbike my friend's dad had, and it was $50. Well, I gave him some money. I was making payments. It didn't work. It needed to be fixed. But I quit making the payments, and he sold it to someone else. You know what I mean? So I learned that kind of as a hard lesson.
Repossessed it.
Yeah. Well, it was still at his house. But my stepdad, he is a real piece of shit. He used to beat me and everything. But what he did was, like, respect is one thing. But I didn't respect him. I feared him. You know what I mean? But the only good thing he did teach me was, like, balancing money. Because when I had my paper out, he told me, you have to collect your money and pay your bill, and then any money after your bill is yours. So that has been driven in my head forever, you know what I mean? Because people aren't going to pay you. So if you plan on them paying you and you spent the money and didn't pay your bill, they got to pay it. And they didn't have the money to pay it. So that was a really big lesson for me.
So even though there were a lot of influences that he would throw your way nobody would want, you remember the one about collect the money first, pay all your bills, and then the rest is yours.
Mm-hmm.
Those are basics, and yet how many people don't live their life that way, right?
Well,
you got to have it in your hand before you can pay your bills, and you got to pay your bills before you get any.
Yeah.
Right?
Especially when you're self-employed. I mean, I had a job when I was 16 because my dad, he was paying me $100 a day, and I wanted more. So he fired me, told me to go get a real job. So I went and got a real job working for Decor Carpets in Renton. They were paying me like $7-something an hour. I worked there 2 weeks and my check was $700. And they took taxes out. I'm like, are you guys nuts? I quit. I quit that day. And, I've been self-employed ever since.
Yeah. Many would describe you, Brian, as just a guy that is a scrapper. You just figure out how to get it done. And through these kind of stories, you can sort of feel where that came from. You buy this fourplex, your first, duplex, then fourplex, right? What did you hire out in that? Did you hire anything out on that job?
I hired a guy to fix the roof because it had cathedral ceilings and they were rotten, the 2x6 ceiling joists. So I helped him, though. I learned how to do that by helping the contractor that was fixing it. My ex-father-in-law, he did the hot water heaters, the angle valves. I mean, I come to the fourplex after laying carpet, and Dawn and her dad had ripped out the whole kitchen in both one-bedroom units, And anyways, we weren't planning on redoing the kitchens, but I guess she did. So we redid the kitchens, and as I saved up more money, I kicked out one of the renters in the back, fixed that one up. Then as I got more money, I got rid of my Section 8 renter, fixed that one up, and re-rented it. And real estate's always been a hobby for me. I mean, I made good money as a kid, and, if you don't save it, you're going to spend it. So I figure, hey, if I buy a few places, I have something I can pay off pretty fast, and I have something to work on when I don't have a carpet job. So after the fourplex, I bought a fourplex and duplex in Algona Pacific, right next to Auburn. And that was probably like 21 or 22. And anyways, I mean, that was another thing. I paid like $110 for a fourplex and $110 for a duplex, and they're side by side. And then after that, I was pretty content. I got something to work on. It's easy to pay off. And then I meet Rose Stabati. She's a power player from a long time ago. And she introduced me to REAPs. It was probably like, I think February is going to be 24 years ago. So I've been going to real estate meetings for 24 years. And so I started buying until the bank wouldn't lend to me anymore. After I went to REAPs, it's like raw. And like the 14 unit I bought, that was one of my carpet customers. I laid carpet for him for 8 years before I bought his building.
You mentioned REAPs, Real Estate Association of Puget Sound, one of the many educational events / classes, meetups, groups you've been involved in over all these years. I think one of the things that catches people by surprise, just because, they'll see you on a job site, they'll see you laying carpet, they'll see you kind of doing everything, the cleanup, the haul to the dump, all these sorts of things. But then they start talking real estate with you, and they realize that you are as dull as a switchblade. You know your real estate in, out, left, and right because of all of this education you've pressed yourself. Give me a range of that education, and what has been the most useful tools you've learned over all these years of being a real estate entrepreneur?
Well, every technique is like a different tool in the toolbox, okay? So with every seller, every situation is a little bit different. So you just pick up a wrench from this seminar, a screwdriver from this one. You know, everyone serves a different purpose. So by going to REAPS, I mean, they've had many speakers, and I've taken, I don't know how many classes, how much I've spent on education, and I don't even need to go anymore, but I go for the motivation. Okay, sometimes you might learn something new or meet someone. Your network, I mean, your network of people is where you're going to get the deal done. So, you know, if you're not doing a lot of deals, you need to go meet more people. You never know who's going to bring you that deal or when.
So, did we first meet because I've been blessed to speak at REAPS, especially back in the day, many times. Is that where we met?
Yeah. One day our speaker didn't show up, and someone had asked you, I think his name was Chris, Buzz haircut guy.
Chris Boda.
Yeah. So he had asked you to fill in for the speaker. So you spoke, and then you had some little booklet. It was like, I don't know, of all your letters or something. I still have it, a 1-inch binder.
Interesting.
And anyways, so then you went to dinner with that one guy from Arizona. I can't remember his name. After that, you started doing power player stuff.
Right. Interesting. Well, that was no pun intended. That was my blessing because we've become great friends, and I couldn't even count the number of people that have called me saying, "Hey, I just met Brian Blessing, and he said to call you." Blah, 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 and here we go. And I've always appreciated those introductions to a lot of amazing power players. Your philosophy of real estate, your why did you start doing this? You know, you said, well, okay, if you're going to have a kid, you got to have something to pay for it. You know, there's a lot of different strategies around why people buy real estate, especially investment grade real estate, not just a house to live in. What has been your strategy from day one?
Well, day one, I never really had a strategy. I mean, the Carlton sheets, I had set in my goal board, you know, to buy a fourplex, which I bought a fourplex. And then I said, hey, I want $1 million worth of real estate, you know. And then you get $1 million, and then you're like, okay, I want 10 million. Well, shit, then you reach 10 million, you know what I mean? So you just keep moving the goalpost. And for me, it's always been a hobby because I always made good money. I mean, good money laying carpet might be 80 to 100 grand a year. Well, I don't do drugs and I hardly ever drink, so I just keep buying real estate. And it's always just been a hobby, something to do because I'm a workaholic. And then, so 98, I bought my first place. And I got divorced in 2007, and you had started doing power player stuff, I think like 2006. I think I was in the third one, and there's one reason why I joined is because I had like 30-something units, and Jeff had Tammy about one building, 10% down, 56 units, seller finance. And I'm like, shit, they're beating me in one deal. So I took it. I was too cheap because it used to be $5 grand, then it went to 10 grand. I was waiting for the price to go down. So stupid philosophy. So,
this is when power players used to be a week long.
It was 6 months when you first started. You met once a month.
Well, yeah, that 1 through 4 was like 6 months of dinners. 5 through, I don't know, 20 or something was a week long. And then say 21 to here's where we're at now. This will be number 37 coming up, is a 4-day intensive without going out and trying to kill each other in a whole week, right?
So my biggest takeaway, which someone don't really explain to you, which I try to explain to people, is like, okay, power players, I took it. It was $10,000. I can't even remember. It was around 10,000. Whether that included a hotel, not airfare. But anyways, I had bought a 16-unit Tacoma before I had taken Power Players. And I've done your stuff. I mean, I helped my mom buy a place, sell her finance. I bought the note at a discount. I made money off your stuff, but I just didn't like think big picture because I was so cheap, right? So anyways, so when I come back from Power Players, the guy I bought 16 unit from, his name's John. I said, hey, John, would you have sold me your building on a contract? He says, I've been a mortgage banker for 30 years. I don't see why not. So anyways, I would have saved a $5,000 appraisal fee and a 1% loan fee on $600,000. So I would have saved $11,000 on that one building if I wouldn't have been so cheap a long time ago. So like if you want to do real estate, $10,000 is nothing in the scheme of things compared to what you can make.
Right. Yeah.
Some people are just like short vision, I guess.
But back, this is where the hard drive, and something that I think is so really important to understand, but really inspiring around you is you were raised, you said it already, that, the mantra was, we can't afford that. And so this kind of frugal mindset is hardwired in, spending money on anything but food and the lights and the basics. We just don't do that because we don't have any money. Mm-hmm. And that hardwiring can even restrict you when you see avenues to make a lot more money. The hardwiring is still there. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things I really appreciate about you, and I really enjoyed our chapter of one-on-one coaching because I would really push you to spend this money, do this, get a car that, feels better than what you're driving, or a truck or something. Take your wife on a great vacation, go to Thailand, do, whatever. Because breaking loose of that was in my mind really an important part of taking off to the next level. Getting an abundance mentality rather than sort of this frugal, I don't spend money on anything other than the basics. You've transitioned a lot. You still are not ever going to be flashy, but you've probably bought something nice for yourself in the last 5 years. Tell me about that.
So
it's got to be something.
I don't know. I did buy a RC 350 Lexus. It was like $70,000. It was a stupid mistake because I think I only got 9,000 miles on it in 5 years, and my wife's probably drove 4,000 of those miles. It's not me. It's all-wheel drive, but it don't have a trailer hitch. I did just buy a Toyota Tacoma last year, a new one.
Yeah.
I bought my maintenance guy a brand new Tundra, and I bought myself a used Tundra. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's a sickness. The one thing that you really helped me with Power Players when I took it, because I've always been a workaholic, compulsive saver. You said, Brian, you may not make it to the end. It's supposed to be a journey along the way. Mm-hmm. And since 2007 is when I got divorced and when I took Power Players, I've been to, I don't even know, 2007, how many years is 10? Yeah. Like 15 years or something?
16 years, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I've been to Thailand like 16 times, and most of those times were like a month. I've been to Cabo twice with you. I've been to Aruba with you. I've been to Grand Cayman with you. Mm-hmm. It's tax deductible. That's why I go with this class, okay? Otherwise, we can't go. I've been to Vegas many times. My wife does miss Vegas, so we need to go back to Vegas, okay?
Right.
Anyways, where else have I been? I've been to Cambodia. I've been to the Philippines. I've been so much, all because you said, Brian, if you don't have to borrow the money to go on a trip, it's okay. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, it's really, I still have a tough time nowadays, It's a tough mindset to break, but I don't want to lose everything I got trying to get what I don't need.
Right.
And sometimes the stress isn't worth the extra headache.
Yeah. I wish there was a way of like rewinding that and playing it like over and over again. Jorge, cut that out in a short, because there's some, I don't want to work crazy hard to make money I don't need. Okay? I agree with that, right? The other idea is that if you are doing what you are working hard for, if you're doing it, if you're working hard to do it someday, mm-hmm. but that someday may not come. You know, I've seen that so many times, Brian. People work their entire life, they retire, and 2 months later they're dead, and they literally never did anything. The journey is supposed to be intertwined with you know, a waypoint of success. Let's go create something with that. Let's do what we designed this for, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I really believe that, as opposed to putting life on hold for this day that may never come out in the future. There's got to be this balance of reward for hard work and success and achievement. Now let's do something. Let's experience something. Let's enjoy something. I really believe that. Tell me about all these trips to Thailand. It's become a favorite place, and I know that that your bride is from Thailand.
Yeah, I don't know about favorite place. I go because I want my daughter to know my wife's side of the family.
Right.
And it's warm, it's inexpensive, it's beautiful places, beautiful scenery. The people, the culture is really nice. The one thing about like most of my Asian carpet customers is, you know, they just have a different way about themselves, the way they treat people. You know what I mean? So that's why I like Thailand. You know, I don't go there just because that's where I want to go all the time. I go to take my daughter to meet her grandpa and all the cousins and family, and she speaks Thai. And to me, it's like, you know, if I'm with you, I got to help support you. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's why I go to Thailand all the time.
Right. You've got your two older kids,
Yeah.
right? And Ben actually is coming back to Power Players for round 2. He went first when he was 16 years old. He's coming back now. He's in his early 20s now.
Yeah, he's 20. He'll be 23 in February, yeah.
Right. And he's coming back, you know, in just a couple months to Power Players. Tell me the lessons that you've tried to, you know, you've had your own experience the way you were raised. You've sort of remodeled and rebooted and ripped out and replaced some of the hard drive you've had as a kid. You've ratified and kept others. What is the input that you've put into Ben, your son, you know, going forward? What have you tried to teach him about entrepreneurship and what you know and do?
I try to teach him about keeping your name good, you know, because it's a small world, and especially nowadays with, I don't know, Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff. It's very important to keep your reputation good and as clean as possible. Because that could hurt a lot of people, you know. And I don't know, when you come with a split household, that causes different, you know, problems. So I just try to teach them manage their money and do what they can. And I mean, my son, he started his own heating business and he enjoys it, so he's doing well at it. And you know, I hope he gets into real estate. I know he got his license. He sold me a couple places. And so he's working his way through it, you know. And my other daughter, she's 19. Her name's Elizabeth, and I want to bring her to Power Players someday. I don't know when. And then Anna is our 11-year-old. So
yeah. You know, it's they say that, you know, kids, when you're raising them, they don't hear much of what you say, but they take in everything you do.
Yeah.
And of course, for any parent, that's a convicting reality, because, you know, it means you're on all the time. It means they're watching everything. If you were to say, here's Ben watching you from a distance, there you are, you're on the job site, he's helping you, this, that. What are the character things that you would say are most consistent Brian Blessing?
Maybe just showing up on time. And the one thing that like drives me nuts, the problem is like you tell them something, but they watch you. Like I go to Starbucks and buy my chai tea because I hate coffee. Anyways, well, my kid, I see him buying, you know, Starbucks chai tea. I'm like, look, kid, I didn't buy chai tea from Starbucks till I made $500,000 a year. Right. That's not how you get started. You know what I mean? Like, you got to drink the case of pop, okay, first. And then as you make more money, then you can. I always made fun of my dad for spending $5-6 on a cup of coffee.
Right.
You know what I mean? So,
right.
But So that's what happens is like they see you doing that. I buy my workers lunch every day. Well, now they use my credit card to buy their own lunch. So he thinks it's okay, but it wasn't always like that. I go to Arco and I buy me the $1 cheeseburgers and the beef bean burritos,
Right.
Anyways, so it's perception and times change, you know what I mean? So
Is it possible in this day and age? I think so. I've seen it, to have young people right out of the gate really get the basics down. Be on time.
yeah.
Do what you say you're going to do. Clean up your mess. These basics. It seems that the world, though, is their oyster if they do these basic things.
Yeah, just showing up is 90% of the job.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. Right. Yeah. Yeah. The world of entrepreneurship. You wear every hat. What are your natural hats, and what are those hats that you have brought in help you run your business?
Oh, I don't know. It's just kind of a big mixture. I mean, I can do everything. I hate paperwork, so I do have a property manager now, full time, and I took her on part time until I had enough work to take her on full time, because I don't want to hire someone and lay them off, you know what I mean? Especially when they rely on you. Same thing with maintenance guys. I figure if I could lay carpet and make $200 a day and pay my maintenance guy $200 a day and I break even, I'm content. I do what I know how to do. He knows what he knows how to do, And then some days I can make $1,000 in a day laying carpet, and I could pay for them all week. You know what I mean? So, but I didn't want to hire someone and then have to lay them off. So there's time, like even right now, I don't have a lot of work for my guys because I don't have a lot of vacancies and everything's pretty much maintained. But I will still find work for them because they rely on you. So like that's what I'm trying to explain to my kid. Like when you hire someone, you got to be able to keep them busy full time, So that's where the rentals come in. And like I was going to buy another house just for my guys to work on when they have nothing else to work on, just so they keep moving.
Big responsibility when you bring somebody on full time, and especially in real estate, you don't want to be out there buying just to keep your crew busy. You want to buy correctly.
Yeah.
You want to buy something that has all of the lettuce and tomatoes, the strategy, the multi-tiered monetization possibilities. I mean, I've seen a lot of builders over my life. We're just got to build just to keep my crew busy, but they build when interest rates are going up and, all the wrong times to be building to sell. And you think, why are you doing that? But they've got to keep their crew busy.
Yeah.
That's a dangerous trap to get into. So the really thinking out who you need. You said paperwork is one of the things you definitely sub out. What about how you find your opportunities, Brian? What is the best source? You're fairly fearless. You just talk to anybody and point blank ask them questions. But lead sourcing, tell me about how you go about sourcing leads and possibilities of what you buy.
Well, I know a lot of real estate agents, so I think that's your best and cheapest lead source is just calling contacts that you already know and just let them know what you're looking for. I mean, I've sent letters. I haven't sent any for a while. But I mean, Craigslist, I bought 3 deals off Craigslist. And then one of those guys, I bought 2 other houses from that same seller. The guy, he's a Chinese guy and he's got 10 vacant houses, vacant for over 10 years. And he wants to beat me up on 10,000. I'm like, 1,000 a month times 12 times 10, that's 120,000 in lost rent. And you want to argue over $10,000? And by the way, you got 10 of these houses sitting vacant. You know what I mean? It don't make sense. So anyways, but Craigslist is underutilized. I would say maybe Facebook Marketplace nowadays. Tons of wholesalers out there. And I have a small group of people that I talk with and hang out with all the time. So the one year when I was doing your mentoring, you made me send all these letters. I spent like $20,000 in advertising, and I think I made maybe like 30 or 40,000 from the letters. But the guy that helped me find the buyer, because I just assigned him, he also made 30 or 40,000. But so I had made 200,000 that year, 100,000 more than normal, doing your coaching, okay. But my buddy also made 200,000. But he didn't spend the money on the marketing and all that stuff. But he would have paid for the marketing, but I didn't want to be obligated to take him the deal if I found it, because sometimes I want to keep them for myself.
Right.
Because I would usually, assign a few, keep one or two as rentals, assign a few, and but
Yeah, do you get face-to-face with sellers quite often, the property owners?
oh yeah, I knock on their door, I drive to their house.
What about if say a wholesaler brings you a deal? Do you make it as a part of the handoff that you get to meet the original seller and get right in the middle of the deal?
It depends on the situation, and some wholesalers, they think they know everything and they don't want you to meet their seller. But a few of them I have, trying to
renegotiate some things,
Yeah.
tweak some things on the deal.
Yeah,
a
and
little bit?
explain to them why, and it don't work at this. Well, if we do it this way, it will work, and explaining it to them so they can explain it to the seller, and just let them know I'm not going to circumvent them.
Right, exactly. Not going
It's
to go
like you're
around
still
it.
going to get your money,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of different ways of going about. And of course, the holy grail is that you discover the property. Nobody else knows about it. You're able to have that slow dance with the seller, to be able to get to know them, to really understand their needs, what they're trying to do, customize the shoe so where it fits them just perfectly. That's the gold standard when you have a toolbox, because now you can really take your time to really custom fit that deal structure to what they need and what fits an entrepreneurial deal structure. It doesn't always go like that, though. The birds fly in the way they fly in, but I think that having that as an ongoing standard, this is why the letters for me is one of those ways where I oftentimes get in on the first crack of any deal, to where I can create a relationship to where I can really understand the seller, and then hopefully know more tools of solving the problem than most, to be able to take it from there. At least that's the hope. Do you have a number of units that you've got in your mind, or a cash flow number or a net worth number where enough's enough, or are you just going to do this as a hobby forevermore?
Well, I have 170 units now. I don't have a ceiling. I am really burnt out with the landlord-tenant laws that they've been changing, and I don't know what I want for the next chapter of my life. Of course, I find a good deal, I'll buy it. I've been doing hard money lending for a few years, and I just have a few friends that I lend with that I trust, And one thing about that is, like, there's so many. So, like, say you come to me and you say, "Hey, Brian, I found this house. It's worth $400,000. I'm getting it for $250 or $300. I'll lend you 100% on it." You know what I mean? Okay, now let's say something happens. Okay, well, hey, Greg, quick claim it back to me. I'll go get a loan on it from the bank. And then we have more money to work with, and you can still be my partner on that house. Even if I get half my money back, we have money to start over with. And a lot of these guys, say I lend you money and say I make $1 million, and say there's 1 year I lose $200,000 because of you. I'm still going to help you make more money, because if you make more money, I'm going to make more money. See, it needs to be a team sport. You can't always win.
But that mentality is definitely not typical bank mentality. And quite honestly, it's not typical even in the world of hard money lending that you see that team mentality.
But they have, I'm going to be in the sport for a long time, right? As long as I'm alive and I enjoy it, I'm going to continue to do it. So even like with COVID, when we had COVID lockdowns, if I lost $200,000 in uncollected rent in 1 year, I would have been just fine. I would have went and got a loan for $200,000 on a free and clear house. I would increase my rent like $20 or $30 per unit to cover my mortgage payment on the $200,000 loan. My life wouldn't have changed. My renters would have been fine. You know what I mean? I don't need the government to tell me how to fix my situation, And so I only lost 10 grand during COVID, and I didn't evict anybody. I just evicted 2 this last year. But I have a joke. I sign lifetime leases, okay? And unless you don't pay your rent, then you're a black sheep of the family, you know? And then you got to move.
Then you got to move.
Yeah, but you know, I just think of it as a team sport. If you've rented from me for a long time, if you fall, if you're a good person, I'm gonna help you get back up. Why? Because you're gonna get a job, you're gonna pay me rent again.
Right.
You know, and so people just don't look at it kind of like that mindset, you know, and they're maybe not in the situation.
I think in part, I think that mindset, though, Brian, in part comes from going back to your childhood, you know, of being in a situation, seeing a lot of difficulty, seeing a lot of challenge right at your doorstep with a father that's, you know, got some addiction problems and things. And, you know, your mom's working several jobs and, you know, in places, in big apartment complexes or mobile home parks that there's a lot of adversity going on in those places. I think you either get hardened to it or you get empathetic towards it. And empathy means I understand. It means I understand. This is not easy. And when you can come to somebody and that look in your eye that says, oh no, I get this. But let's work through this together because I understand. Wow, you're creating now an advocate for you. Now they're going to do everything they can to improve the situation and help you because you've helped them. I think that's a great approach. I think I'm guilty of buying buildings and just going, okay, I just paid a ton of money for this building. The party's over. You know, the rent that you've had for the last 30 years that hasn't gone up, it's going up. You know,
I do the same thing.
Yeah.
But you know,
but you work hard to keep them there and to work with them. Whereas I think I've approached it, you know, with less empathy. I didn't experience the kind of surrounding when I was young like you did. And so I really think that is part of your operation right now. I've seen the buildings that you operate and you know, it's a middle to lower income tenant base that you have, and you work with them empathetically.
Yeah.
That's it. And I see it in others too. Jesse Lee sat right in this chair, and Patrick, and you know they've had a heart for that given challenging upbringing themselves. You know?
One of the things I really do that I really enjoy is like it'll be a nice sunny day, you know, in the summer, and the ice cream man will come by, and all these little kids run up there, and I buy all the kids ice cream, even their moms, whoever walks them up there if they want it. The ice cream man knows me, follows me around, you know. Anyways, it makes me happy, you know. At that 300-unit apartment complex,
right.
The guy that owns it, well, he don't own it anymore, but he's still alive. He lives in Mercer Island. He used to pay me $1 a day to pull weeds out of the flower bed, you know. And so I remember that.
Right.
Anyways, but
right. I can just picture that truck going through, and it's on Brian.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
You know, here goes 50 ice cream bars out the door, and
yeah, it doesn't matter.
you know, and there's many stories. Matter of fact, I'll tell you one I heard just about 3 weeks ago. It might have been Jesse that told me. I think it might have been Jesse or Patrick. But there's a kind of a diner in Tacoma, and there was a waitress there that was working really hard. Everybody was kind of giving her a hard time, and she was doing her best. She was like swamped, you know, and one person for many tables, and she's just running, and everybody's getting kind of. But anyway, you didn't order much. As the story goes, you didn't order much. It was like a soda or something. But, you know, the bill came, and she gave everybody separate bills, and you paid the bill, and then you left her a $50 tip. And you didn't say anything about it. You kind of hid it underneath the thing. But it was one of those guys that watched you. And of course, everybody gets up and leaves, and of course she's there, I'm sure, at some point went, what in the world? To me, that is part of the reason you're so successful, is that when people perceive, oftentimes, I hope this doesn't sting too bad, but people look at certain people that they say, hey, there's something I can get from them. There's something that they can help me achieve, or that they can introduce me to somebody, or they're my conduit to get something more. Then they're really nice. They're really nice. They're really tender and nice and massaging that conduit that's getting them somewhere. But if they look at you and they don't really perceive that you're much, and they just kind of blow you off, what's there? What can I learn from that person? I would walk right by that person. One of the things that you've been to Power Players as much as anybody, that I believe it proves, is that it's the unlikely suspects. It's the person that looks like they've got nothing valuable to offer to you. Not only do they have something to offer, but they are like the key. They are the puzzle piece you've been looking for to open up the next avenue of life. But we walk right by them.
Don't even notice.
Mm-hmm. The arrogance of it all, that we just walk right by thinking, no, there can't be anything there. But there's Waldo in the picture. Waldo is disguised right there. That is Waldo that would unlock everything you're wanting to learn and do, and the possibility. To me, that has been proven so many times to me. The unlikely suspects, A.B. Label, who you met, an unlikely suspect. Little did anybody know that he owned 3,300 units in Seattle. Nobody would ever guess that. That's the guy that has the answers that could really launch you. But you walk right by him like he's just some old man. Which is why at least 50 times in our life together, you've been in the audience and I've been talking to a group, and you're probably too used to it by now.
I can almost say it.
I wish you would, because you say what I've done at least 50 times, probably in 40 different places. Yeah, go ahead, tell them.
No,
Well, I'll be talking about what is success. Right in this hangar a couple months ago, there's 300 people crammed in this hangar. I'd say, be careful that you don't walk by what success really looks like. And I say, see that guy? See that guy sitting right there? And of course, when you hear me say that from front, you don't even need to look. You know I'm pointing at you. And I go, hey, stand up, Brian. And you stand up. You want to know what a multi-millionaire looks like? That's what he looks like. That guy right there.
The millionaire next door?
That guy, the millionaire next door. The guy that isn't writing poetry. He just works hard. He works honestly. He doesn't flash around in some Lamborghini that he can't afford. The opposite of arrogance, it's humble, is no pretense. You always are the one asking the questions. And I don't know, if nothing else comes of this, I swear this is something I want to beat in. It's the only thing that can never get in Power Players. 1 ounce of arrogance. If I sense it, no is the answer. No, not in Power Players. I'm the gatekeeper. People who want to give as much as they want to receive, right? And people who genuinely want to learn and grow. That sense of humility is so critical to success. Think about the greatest people. We were in Las Vegas when General Fogelman gets up there. He's the chief of staff of the Air Force, for crying out loud. 4-star general who is about as humble a guy as you could ever be. I don't know. I think that there's something so powerful about that, and you exude that. You really, really do. What are you afraid of in life? You have this reputation, Brian, of being absolutely fearless, and I remember certain exercises and things that we've done at Power Players. You have a reputation. It's like you just don't have a gauge that absorbs fear or rejection or anything. None, zero. What freaks you out? Anything?
Heights. I don't like heights. I don't mind cleaning my gutters, but if it's 2 stories, like I don't want to go up there and clean it.
Hold the mic a little closer to you. There you go.
2-story buildings, I don't want to go up there and clean the gutters, right? I don't want to lose everything that I've worked hard for trying to get what I don't need. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to lose what I have.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to get what I don't need. That's basic.
What do you need?
What do I need? I just need to be happy and comfortable. Of course, you say comfort zone is a bad place to be, but it's nice to take a break. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I don't have much hair left on my head. And like I got to figure out what I want next. I can keep buying real estate, but guess what? I'm going to keep getting older, and now I'm still healthy. I can still go places.
How old are you now?
45. I'll be 46 next month.
Mm-hmm.
And, my wife says, hey, go buy real estate, in a different state, I'm never home now. If I had to go to a different state and get on an airplane, I'd really never be home. At least I sleep at home when at nighttime.
Yeah, right.
And it's like...
you just said that. You got to find out what you want to do next. And how do you set a compass? How do you set a GPS on? I'm going here if you don't know where, right?
Yeah. And do you need it?
And do you need it?
We pay property taxes over 50 parcels, property tax, insurance over 50 policies. It'd be nice to have a 200-unit building in one spot, preferably a better landlord-friendly state. Mm-hmm. But do I need it? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I'm almost burnt out now, We'll see if I get recharged when I go back to Thailand next month. But, why do I need it? I can sell one place or get a loan on a place, go have fun, and no stress. Stress will kill a person more than anything. And, as you're buying rentals and stuff, you build up a stress tolerance. Mm-hmm. But some person can only take so much shit. The last eviction I did, it was 4 months and cost me $4,000, and that guy didn't put up a fight. And then before that, his rent was $1,000. It was 8 months, and it cost me $8,000. Mm-hmm. Of course, now I get $1,600 for rent, and he lived there for 8 years. So did I lose money at the small perspective? But I made a lot of money over a long period of time. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people get bogged down. Oh, it cost me $50,000 to fix it. Well, how much equity has it gone up? Mm-hmm. How much did you pay down the loan? Mm-hmm. You have to look at a big picture. You can't just look at small things. So I try to keep my mind right around the landlord-tenant laws. Anytime they make all these rules, it just makes it more expensive for these people.
Yeah. What about changing product type? Residential real estate, providing apartments / mobile units / a place for people to live. But what about mobile home parks where you don't own the unit? What about RV parks? What about RV storage? What about storage in general? There's commercial real estate. There's a lot of other forms of real estate that don't go under the same landlord-tenant law bucket.
Well, the mobile home park that I bought, of course, I grew up there, and mobile home renters are a different breed of people. Mm-hmm. What I mean? They're different than normal renters, okay? They're crazy, I think. Anyways, I don't know. We'll see what God's got for me. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I've been looking at commercial space, but I don't want to partner with someone. I don't want a joint venture. I have a wife that's bad enough, so I really, you know what I mean? Whatever I do, I don't want to be questioned. I have 3 Fannie Mae loans, mm-hmm. and those are the worst loans in the world for your apartments. Mm-hmm. Yeah, my expenses are cheaper than normal. Why is it so cheap? Oh, I self-manage. I don't have any vacancies. Hey, why are your expenses so, high this quarter? Well, because I had a vacancy, I remodeled the kitchen. Oh, we want photos and receipts. These are Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, apartment loans.
Right. Right. A lot of accountability.
Yeah, I don't like those kind of rules, So mm-hmm. next time I would rather pay a little bit more. Mm-hmm. to cut out the bullshit. Because at the end of the year, it's like I'm applying for a new loan.
Right. Well, and these are things you learn by doing, though, right? And people don't think that you can do things in an alternative fashion, sometimes in bigger projects. They go, oh, well, take seller financing, for example. Oh, that works on little houses and this and that, but that would never work on a big commercial building. And unfortunately, that's just not a true statement. It absolutely does. And actually, in some cases, more often because of more sophisticated tax issues and tax challenges.
And more sophisticated seller that understands it. Yeah.
Exactly right. You're not having to play the role of the educator and the skeptical. They understand all of the guidelines, and so it can work out very, very well. But I think product type has a lot to do, and of course the world of real estate is a shifting target of opportunity and a shifting target of challenges. And so the nature of it is very dynamic, and therefore a static plan is never going to work. You're going to have to flex and weave with changing conditions, but understanding, the basics of wealth creation. You realize that you're in the 0.1% of all Americans that have a net worth like you, that have a financial base like you. And to me, this is where the inspiration comes. And yet you've also admitted that this wasn't easy. You've been at this and on task for 27 or 8 years.
And I work all the time. I work 6-7 days a week. Even if I'm home, I'm still thinking about other stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
So, and then it's balancing it.
Yeah,
and
that can be a real challenge. Tell me about the first time you went to Power Players. Power Players is difficult for anybody to describe, but without, I'm not looking for an endorsement as much as what was the takeaway when you came back that allowed you to start thinking differently about real estate?
Well, you get the wrench and the screwdriver and Allen wrench, Crescent wrench, but you don't really have the way, the education on how to use them. So by taking Power Players, you show how to implement using them, explaining to the seller, talking about their long-term plan for their life. Not because a lot of agents will just sell an old person's house. They'll pay the tax and put it in a CD or a checking account. One, the family is going to spend it all. Two, the state's going to take it all. So there has to be a state of planning. It's just, it's not just like sell a house and it's done. So like I read yesterday, someone sold their house. Well, their Medicare is more expensive if they would have sold it 3 years prior, or if they did it like a contract. And a lot of agents don't take this into consideration. They're doing like really big, biggest asset a person has usually.
Right.
And they're just selling their house, making a commission. They don't think outside the box.
Yeah. Think in terms of a much bigger plan.
Yeah. And you didn't even know you can do some of the stuff that we've done, until you can read it in a book, but until someone shows you like, do this. Oh, okay. I understand now.
Well, that's when you do it, when you make that lap around the track and you do it and you get results, it's only then that it becomes real.
Yeah.
Now it's not theory anymore. Now you look at a closing statement, you look at a check you walk out escrow with, you look at the keys that somebody handed you with this deal structure, and you go, okay, this is not theory anymore. This is real. And then your belief system grows.
Yeah.
And then you're out the door with real focused intention. You're a hunter. I've likened this before that, if you've never seen a mule deer in the woods, you look and they're hard to spot. But once you've seen one, you go, oh, that's what they look like. And then all of a sudden you start seeing them everywhere because your eye knows what it's looking for. It's the same thing when you structure a deal correctly, when you really customize it to fit something, and you've got all the tools, all the lettuce and tomatoes to pull from all these tools to really handcraft something, and it walks all the way through to closing. It's like, oh, now I know what that looks like. And then you can rinse and repeat many times.
Yeah.
So I think that that's the way it works, and maybe the way it should works. When you have when you're out there in the world of people, they say that there's three things that you're looking at people trying to solve their problems. Sometimes people think the only way I'm going to solve this is you've called me because you think you want to sell this property. Give me a situation where you've sat down with somebody and you see a solution to their situation that doesn't involve them selling their real estate. How do you approach that? You're there wanting to buy their real estate, but you realize all they need is $20,000 to solve a problem. They don't need to sell their real estate to do that. How do you handle things like that?
Well, I'll just give them my opinion, whether it's right or wrong. I mean, I'm going to be honest with them and tell them, you can go get a 0% credit card. You could do a reverse mortgage. I told people during the 2008, stay in your house. That's your best option. You know what I mean? You have nowhere else to go. The money you get from selling the house, you don't have enough to go anywhere. Just stay there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like I bought this guy's house. He's a blind guy. He was a heroin addict ever since he was like 18, and he was 70 something. I gave him a life estate. Of course, I got the house for a good price. I didn't pay him any interest. I paid him principal only payments, and he wasn't supposed to get more than $1,700 a month in income, and his Social Security was $700. Okay, and his house was actually in a LLC. Because if he got 1701, he'd lose a state-funded social worker that come clean his house and cook for him every day. And so anyways, I just gave him $1,000 principal only payments, and then gave him some money on the side that he didn't deposit. And then when he passed away, I paid off his brother. But the house was pretty much, I figure after 3 years, if he lived there 3 years, I did okay. If he lived there 10 years, maybe he did better than me. But I got the tax deduction. I did fix up the house while he was living there, cleaned the yard, got it insured, made it so he could shower. But he didn't have a wife. He don't have no kids. He's blind. So like he already knows where the bathroom's at. He knows where the kitchen's at. And he can open the door and listen to the river. So that, that was one deal that worked out really well for me.
You see, though, the way that you can recall this deal and all of the very, very personal pieces of this transaction, these are the puzzle pieces you were dealing with. He's blind. He's an addict. He's got these income streams that will be defunded if he gets more than this. Right? He knows where the bathroom is, the kitchen is. He likes the river. You're adding up all these pieces that form the pieces of a puzzle. Now, okay, how do you solve the puzzle? And it turns out to be a tool called a life estate.
Yeah.
You stay here. I own the home. Here's what I'm paying you. You can live there as long as you can live there. And there's the right tool for that situation. But it all starts with the awareness and the interview and
the education.
What are you dealing with? And then you marry that with the education of this is the tool. Boy, I haven't used this one. It's in here somewhere. Oh, here it is. And and then you apply the tool to the situation.
And you have to be able to carry the negative cash flow.
Sure.
For indefinite.
You wouldn't do that on your first deal, right? But here, when you've got a whole bunch of others, you go, okay, this is going to pay in time. I can afford to carry this. And it's principal reduction, so I'm adding to my equity every single month. So, yeah, I don't know. I love the process, and you do it, back to our word that started today, so non-assumingly. I remember when you spoke in Las Vegas, you at the All-Star, which, boy, did you deserve to be up front there. But you went up there and you said, okay, here's 300 people in a ballroom. Here, I'm going to talk to you like it's just you and I standing on a street corner. Well, that's what you do every day. You talk to people in very common, straightforward, easy to understand language that listens to them and solves their problem.
And sometimes they don't like what you have to say, but just be honest. Say it the way it is.
Yeah.
You don't have to like everything.
Right.
And sometimes until someone points it out, you were never even aware of it.
Right.
Because so many of your friends, they don't want to tell you because then you're going to be mad at them, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and I really feel, though, Brian, and one of the things I also appreciate about you is that we've become good friends. And there have been times you've just, you treat your friends with that same kind of respect. You go, listen, I could just not say anything, or I could just kind of keep this to myself, but what good is that? Are we going to have a real relationship or not? Here's what I think. I think you need to think about this, or I think you should look at it this way. Tell me what you think. I don't know. I think that we live in a world that it all looks so perfect, and everybody just wants to agree that aren't we all perfect? No, we're not all perfect. Matter of fact, we're all flawed. That's the common denominator. So what you would hope for is people to kind of disturb you in a caring way, to tell it to you like it is, to say it the way it is. And you've never been afraid of doing that. And to me, that's a great example of what great friends are about. Who is it that's going to tell it to you like it really is? Mm-hmm. There have been chapters in my life where I think, God, do I have any friends? There was nobody telling me to pull my head out of my ass. Why didn't anybody say anything? And
maybe they did. Maybe you didn't hear them.
Maybe I didn't hear them.
The student, the teacher will appear when the student's ready, and the teacher's been there the whole time, but you didn't notice them because you walked right by him probably.
That's probably true. Yeah, that's probably true. This is where this takes me out to deep ocean. It's why I call on you so often, is that there's a sense of being matter of fact. I think you could be mad at somebody or completely taken by them, and your tone doesn't really change in the way you express it. It just is what you see it is. And to me, there is only one way to communicate that, and that's just like you do. You say it honestly. So your motivation regarding your kids, do you feel do you have in the back of your why that you want to pave a way for your kids financially to have everything they need? Or do you want to see them go grind it out like you have?
Well, I'd like for them to grind it out the way that I have, maybe not as bad, because if you pay for it, you appreciate it more, and you're going to pay attention. If you already have that, I've never had anyone who would help me if I fell. I might have one person, what I mean? If I need money today, it would give it to me that I know I could trust. Because of all these people, I got money, you find a deal, let me know. You know what I mean? I call them and they're just like crickets, I'm like, you dumbass. Anyway, so I do what I can do on my own. I don't want to have to ask anyone for anything. But my kids, I'll be there to support them, right? Tell them, hey, do this, do that. And I had a shirt made. It says, what is it? It's, dear borrower, if you had taken my advice, you wouldn't need my money, so don't be upset, No, that's, hold on. Dear borrower, it's funny how you'll take my money, but you won't take my advice. If you take my advice, you wouldn't need my money. You know what I mean? Anyways, it's
okay, so something you have reiterated a couple of times, I want to pick up on this. You do what you can do. You do the deals you can do. You keep it simple. You don't want partners. You've gone through that. There's a whole line of thinking out there. I've heard it many, many times, that if you want to go to big places, you bring people in. You go together as a group. That the group thinking and the power of a bigger group is how you do big things. I'm not saying what's right or wrong, but it seems that your own philosophy flies in the face of that. Tell me, compare and contrast those, and why have you decided to keep it very simple, tight to the vest, do only what you can do?
Well, there's some syndications right now that people are a part of. If they put in $100,000, they may have to come up with another $100,000 to keep their interest in that partnership, or they'll lose it. Well, why do I need it? I mean, I don't live in a big fancy house. Would I like one? Sure. You know what I mean? But I don't want to risk everything I have to get something I don't need, you know? And partnerships, there's always lawsuits and headaches. And if you got one or two people, you might be able to work something out. You know, that's why I lend money to a few of my friends that I know if we have an issue, we could help each other out. You know, and I hope they would. If not, you got to do what you got to do. But so that, I don't know, maybe someday I would. But if you're okay to lose the money, right? But I've worked really hard for my money, so I don't want to lose it.
Right. A.B. Label burned one thing in that I feel could fit right here. He said, you know, I want you to pencil out the worst case scenario. If the worst case scenario happened here, can you live with it? Are you okay? And if you pencil out the worst case scenario and that's not okay, then don't do that, right? You know, if you feel as though that would be catastrophic, then don't do that. Wait for a better opportunity where you're more comfortable within your goals and objectives. And I've thought about that a lot. Can I be okay if the worst case scenario happens here? You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Interesting. If you were to teach a class and all of a sudden you walk in and here's, 100 people sitting there, what would the title of that class be? I know this is very spontaneous, but I'm really curious what you would say.
It'd probably be just learn to adapt. Because you have to change. We try this, it don't happen. Just like if you got a renter you don't like, if you have a seller or a contractor or anyone you're dealing with, you have to think of different angles, how to persuade that person to get done what you want to get done. You know, because sure, you can buy the place, but can you manage it? If you go buy 200 units and you can't manage it, you didn't do yourself any favor, you know? So that, and you can't, if I gave you a 100-unit building, you're not going to be able to handle it because you didn't start with 10. You know what I mean? You have to build up a tolerance for the stress and for the shit. I think that's what I would tell them.
The class on adapting.
You got to change. And just like the market's changing now, you have to adapt. And
adaptation sometimes takes tools.
Yeah.
It takes, okay, this wrench isn't going to work now. I got to go to this pair of pliers.
And,
right?
and like one of your questions here was about agents. What do I think about real estate? I love real estate agents. They're a tool. Every agent is a tool. A person is a tool, right? I have this one guy. He's more sophisticated. He's a commercial broker. Right? He's one of my tools. I use him when he fits in the right situation. I use another agent, my pit bull, right? When I need to be a little bit more aggressive. So that is a bad way to think of them as a tool, but that's the way I think of them, right? It's like, hey, we got to get this guy over there to handle this one because that's what he's good at, you know? Just like most listing agents aren't good at selling and vice versa. So... And I took the class, the Rockwell class, but I don't want to be licensed. I just wanted to know the law with all these agents. That way so I can screw with them. Because when they meet me, they don't know I know anything, you know?
So you sort of use your non-assumptive way, your under-the-radar kind of way to your advantage because you're aware that sometimes people look at you and think, oh, God, this guy is kind of just some bumpkin in a pickup truck and doesn't really know anything.
Oh, yeah.
You just give them that line like feeding a fish line, right?
Yeah. I mean, if I show up a suit and tie and I come in your house, you're going to be put off, especially if you're not a suit and tie kind of person.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and I think most people wear suit and ties are crooks, bankers and attorneys.
Right.
You know? So anyways, that's kind of the way I think.
This is the part of this that I love is that it's just getting into like just how you see the world because it's very defined and it was very formed and it's been reinforced. There's no question about it. Do I agree everyone in a suit is a crook? No, I don't agree with that. But I do understand the street awareness the street awareness that says, just because you're wearing a suit doesn't mean this or that to me. That I would absolutely agree with. It's like, no, you're gonna have to do more than dress up here to impress me, because I want to know who you are. I want to know how you think. And the idea of having a big toolbox of individuals that have different gifts, that's critical. I have a friend that owns many units in Seattle. He recognizes, absolutely completely recognizes, that he one-on-one with anybody is just borderline offensive. He knows that. He's been told it 1,000 times. He doesn't really even like people. But he's smart enough to hire Julie, who's been with him for 30 years. And Julie is the face of Dave.
He just tells her what to do.
And he says, here's what I'm willing to do. Here's the parameters. If he says this, do this. He's like a earpiece. He's like a coach. But she goes in with this big personality, this sincere connective skills. I mean, it's very for real. It's not a show. She's so good with people. And she gets that deal signed. Not only does she get a commission of sorts, but she sometimes gets ownership in the building. She really has incentive to go put her skill set out there and be rewarded for it. So what you don't have, somebody else does. And so knowing how to best move the ball down the field, that's what a general manager does. Essentially, you're navigating a deal with the best people you have at your disposal. So I think that's fantastic.
And the way you present it and package it, like when you're asking for a discount on a property, and it's a substantial discount, the more documentation you can show, it's not me, here's the numbers. This is why it needs to be where it's at. So anytime you can document and just have proof, why you're asking for, the discount or whatever, it'll just back you up and be more believable. If you just say, hey, give me $100,000 discount, you're like, you're nuts. But if you're like, hey, I got to pay for this, here it is. That's why.
Right.
They're like, oh, okay, I understand. Now the agent could go back and show their seller,
Right, exactly. Tell me, what comes to mind when you think of, in your opinion, however you want to size it up, the best deal you've ever done in real estate? Is there one that jumps off the page and you go, that was the best deal I've ever done?
Well, they're all pretty good, but the 119 unit I bought, I got seller financing, and I had met with the lady, and she wanted $1.4 million, and hold on. So let's see. I was mowing my yards, okay, and a white Land Rover drives by with two old white guys, and I run after them, and I'm like, hey, Fred, I want to buy your building, because they pulled into the 19 unit. Oh, I'm not Fred. I'm an agent. This is a buyer. Fred passed away. I said, well, I want to buy the building. And so anyways, the seller wanted $1.4 million, and his buddy, his partner agent, because the other buyer went away. I knew him because I had bought 6 units from his wife. So he knew I would do what I said I'm going to do, right? He's like, it's only worth $1 million, and she wants 1.4. I said, well, list it. I'm not going to list it for that. It's not worth that. You dumbass. If you list it, you have control of the listing. If you don't list it, you have no control. She listed it with someone else for $1.4 million. She gets a buyer $1.2 million. Well, she's going to sell it for $1.2 million, right? Well, the buyer goes away. So she unlists it. She gets mad, right? So I send her a Thanksgiving card. I meet with her on my birthday, which is December 21st. And then I tell her, like, hey, I want to buy your building. Well, this other agent, he tries to sell me all this shit. Shit is like flat roofs, galvanized plumbing, built in 68. That shit. Okay, 1 bedroom. This is all 2 bedrooms, copper plumbing, 412 pitch. So anyways, I had told that agent, like, hey, go talk with this old lady for me. I'll get a bank loan and buy it, right? Because she's 70-something. I'm young, aggressive. And anyways, so he goes and talks with her, and I got the building. And she didn't want to carry a contract. I offer $1.2 million with no agents, $200,000 down on a contract. She didn't want that. So after she brought in her agent, I brought in my agent, and she brought in attorneys. I got it for $1.05 million. I put, like, what did I put down? It was like $100,000. But I put in escrow for construction draw or something. Anyway, so I borrowed $900,000 with no payments and no interest for 9 months. Well, I went in and renovated the building. And I walked next door. I stole 4 neighbors from the neighbors. I stole their renters because I gave them frisé carpet, 2-tone paint, new cabinets, and I matched their rent. I didn't charge them a damage deposit. And anyways, so like I had refinanced a building, but that was probably one of the best ones I'd done.
You still have that?
Yeah, I still have it.
Mm-hmm. What do you think it's worth today?
I don't know, 3 or 4 million.
Mm-hmm.
I did cash back during COVID,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
with those Fannie Mae loans.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways, but I mean, that's just one deal. And the old lady liked me, the other seller that I'd met with prior didn't like me. I was honest, she lives in the ghetto and she didn't belong there anyways. But, everyone's different. So you don't need them all. You just need the good ones, and you just base hits.
Right. Well, I'd say that's a double off the wall.
Yeah. Well,
right. That's a stand-up double.
It's all persuasion and what you use.
Persuasion, Aristotle described in his articulate way, the art of discovering all available means of agreement.
Documentation.
That's the word persuasion is defined that way. It's the state of agreement. And how you get there is an art form.
Mm-hmm.
This has been absolutely fantastic, Brian, and I really mean it. I just think that just this dose of Brian blessing is going to give people everywhere just a belief and a hope that, hey, listen, I can do this. If I dig in, if I really make this my purpose, if I'm willing to dig in, work hard, this is what I love about this sport, is that it's, there's certain things you can disqualify. I'm not a Elon Musk or a Bill Gates. You know what I mean? There's these brainiacs, or there's the gifted, the Celine Dion voice, or the Russell Wilson ability to throw a pass. I'm not those either. So how do you do really well in life if you're kind of normal?
Well, you just show up every day.
You do this, yeah,
and save your money. So one thing, I spoke at some meeting the other day, and it didn't dawn on me. I just do what I do every day. You know what I mean? And like whether I help you or help them, I just be me, right? And my mom works at Safeway. I think she makes $25 an hour, and she just turned 62, and I check her mail sometimes. Anyway, her Social Security thing's in there. So after she's been a checker for like 45 years at Kmart, Fred Meyer's, and Safeway, she's going to get like $1,100 a month Social Security if she collects it at 62. If she waits till 67, if you even live that long, she might get $1,300, right? Well, my mom owns 5 houses. 3 of them she's never been inside. And they're all free and clear except for one. She owes $150 on at like 2.5%. I had to refinance. And she's never made a lot of money, but she listens really well, And
you've helped her get these 5 houses.
Yeah, I helped her buy them all. So I had found a house, and it was like $80,000. The bank wanted like $20,000 down from me. I told my mom, like, hey, I'll give you a down payment. You move in there. Owner occupied. I think it was like $10,000 down. I fixed it up for her, and while I'm working on it, I tell the old lady next door, I want to buy the dope house. She says, that ain't a dope house. I said, I weighed my own weed in that house when I was a kid. What are you talking about? Anyways, we bought it on a contract, and we bought the loan down within 1 year using your
first right of refusal.
Yeah.
Clause,
So
right?
and we're still trying to buy the house next door. But anyways, so it's like just a little bit of accidental stuff you didn't do. So anyways, I'm just looking at one house I helped my mom buy. We got it around for $2,500. It's free and clear. We got a line of credit on it just in case. Anyways, and she clears $2,000 a month after property tax insurance. One deal, and she's only owned that house maybe 8 years. One deal is more than 45 years of being a checker. You know what I mean? So like anyone can do it. Even if you just buy 1 or 2 houses, it's well worth it. I mean, time value of money in 30 years, like that one, we only paid like $80,000. Of course, it was during the recession, but that's just one house.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, this is the motivation we needed. There is I suppose I'm hopeful that people are getting used to this, but every podcast, ends with a consider this. And the thought that I would like people to consider, and it's the idea of the camouflage that true success wears. If I could throw out a challenge, it would be to just look at the world around you with different eyes. That successful people, really successful people, oftentimes are camouflaged. They don't look like the picture of quote unquote success that we often see. And when you just open your mind to that, and if you start listening and are a little slower to come to conclusions, all of a sudden there's a world there. It's like describing scuba diving to somebody. It's like the minute you're 30 feet underwater breathing on a tank and you look around, it's like, whoa, where was this? This is a whole world that you didn't know existed.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like that. When you can look at success with those kind of eyes, there's a whole world that you're going to see that you've never seen before. And you start opening up that world, and doors of opportunity are left and right. All a Brian blessing. I really appreciate you letting me interview you, letting you be with you today, buddy. And here's to the next, what we say, 18 years we've known each other. Here's to the next 20 if we can make it that long. I'm a lot older than you, but I'm hoping for 20 more. So
I think you're older than my parents, aren't you?
I am. Yeah. I could be your dad. All right, brother. Well, thank you again very much, and to all of you listening, God bless. Thanks so much.